Hello people, today we have a nice story, please enjoy. Title: My dad pretends my wedding isn't happening. My dad has always liked to show off. He used to brag about our grades and tell everyone how well his daughters were doing. He would even criticize my sister for having a job that wasn't impressive enough to brag about. After he and my mom divorced, he was a supportive dad for a while. But things changed when he met Eva. Eva is much younger than him, has had cosmetic surgeries, and even flirted with him while he was still married to my mom. They married quickly because, according to them, they had known each other for a long time. Eva has a lot of control over him. She told him not to text us much because we're adults. She checks his phone constantly and even banned him from visiting us on Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day. She said he needed to spend those days with his new family and that seeing his ex-wife would be disrespectful to her. Eva has been very difficult to deal with. And my dad listens to everything she says. Now that I'm planning my wedding, I invited my dad but not Eva. I've only met her once and didn't like her. Also, I'm aware of how my dad can behave. He might make inappropriate comments comparing my mom and Eva. To keep things neutral, I didn't invite my mom's boyfriend either, even though he's really nice. But when I invited my dad, he acted as if nothing was happening. I sent him a save the date, and all he did was send back a thumbs up emoji. He hasn't shown any interest in my wedding. He hasn't asked about the venue or any details, even though he used to say he couldn't wait for me and my sister to get married. My fiancé and I come from different religions and cultures, which has led to many questions from others, but not from him. It seems he hasn't told Eva or anyone else about my wedding. He's pretending he has to go on a work trip that day. I doubt he'll actually come. I think he'll say he's coming and then back out at the last minute. However, my sister believes he might show up with Eva and cause a scene because he thinks Eva has just as much right to be there as my mom. Has anyone else experienced something like this? Should I find someone else to walk me down the aisle just in case? Update. It turns out my dad ended up spilling the beans to Eva about my wedding. He even told her she was invited to avoid any issues, prompting her to buy a dress and book a hotel. Despite my clear instructions, my dad has been trying to persuade me to let Eva come. His main argument? He thought the wedding would be a perfect opportunity for Eva to meet my mom and the rest of my mom's family. I can't fathom why he thinks my mom would want to meet Eva, especially under these circumstances, and why he believes excluding Eva would be unfair. My dad often reminds us about his new family, even going so far as to call them that. He frequently cancels dinners with my sister, citing emergencies with Eva, and absurdly suggests we should start calling Eva Mom. Both my sister and I are adults who moved out long ago, and his suggestion feels ridiculous and inappropriate. He kept calling, trying to convince me to invite Eva, but I stood firm. I explained to him that the only reason he wanted his new wife at the wedding was to upset my mom, and I refused to let that happen. He continually makes snide remarks about my mom in the presence of his new wife, bragging about how great his life is now. Just when I thought this issue was settled, I sent him some wedding details, and perhaps feeling guilty, he took it a step further. He booked Eva on a flight, along with himself on the same flight as my mom. He rearranged his plans just so Eva could meet my mom during the journey, clearly intending to flaunt his new wife and stir up trouble. He claims that Eva will just go shopping during the ceremony, but I'm skeptical. There's a chance he might try to sneak her into the wedding, hoping she won't be turned away. Now, I'm trying to persuade my mom to change her flight to prevent any pre-wedding drama. I'm torn about whether I should even allow my dad to come to the wedding at all. His actions have shown a complete disregard for my feelings and the peaceful atmosphere I want for my special day. I'm left wondering if the joy of having him there would be overshadowed by the stress and potential chaos his presence could cause. Final update. I had to ask my dad to change his flight because he initially told me he chose it specifically to avoid my mom, even though he had previously claimed he was just trying to coordinate a meeting between my mom and his new wife, Eva. My mom was traveling with my grandpa, making it difficult for them to switch flights just to dodge him. After I confronted him, he promised he had changed his flights and would come up with some excuse for Eva. He also criticized me for not believing him when he said he didn't book the flight out of spite, even though he had already admitted to my mom that the booking was intentional. He implied I was horrible for doubting his intentions. I thought this had settled the issue, especially since my mom insisted that my dad be at the wedding despite our strained relationship. She believed that disinviting him could end any chance of reconciliation. However, just 2 days later, the situation escalated. My dad confirmed he had rebooked his flight, but that evening, I received an enraged call from Eva. She had read the messages on my dad's phone about the flight change and began accusing me of being unhinged and horrible. She bizarrely criticized me for still talking to my parents in my 30s and claimed I was jealous of my dad's new life. During her tirade, she insulted my mom, calling her derogatory names, which made me lose my temper. I defended myself, stating that I had no issues with her until now, but her behavior was unacceptable and controlling. After enduring her yelling for a couple of minutes, I ended the call. The next day, my dad phoned to complain about how I had responded to Eva, suggesting that all the trouble could have been avoided if I had just invited her as he had requested. He questioned whether he was still welcome at the wedding, and I told him clearly that he was not, especially given his lack of involvement and interest in the wedding details. He warned me to be cautious with my messages as Eva was monitoring his phone, but I decided I was done speaking to him. The wedding day itself went smoothly. My mom walked me down the aisle, and fortunately, there was no drama. Despite the chaos leading up to it, everything turned out well in the end. The situation was more intense and occurred closer to the wedding date than I had anticipated, but it highlighted the complexity of the issues and relationships involved.